You know what, Cory? We've got an analyst right here to respond to all of these things that you're saying. Alex Gauna of JMP Securities here in the studio. One of the rare holds our market performs on Apple. You think this is a big miss and that this is serious. Why?
I think it's telling. So now we have Tim Cook, first quarter out of the box as CEO, a miss. You'll recall the launch of the iPhone 4S was not a spectacular launch. It disappointed many, and this product rev is not the most dynamic.
4 million iPhone 4Ss sold. You don't think that's
off to a great start.
Amazing. I mean, that's more than twice as many as the last model sold in its opening weekend.
And as Cory said, we're talking about the world's largest technology company. It needs to sell a lot to keep momentum going. And that's the key question. Has Apple hit peak momentum? I think it has.
Why?
Well, because now they're lacking in their lead visionary. They're in the hands of an ops guy, and innovation is the lifeblood of Apple. And we're also talking about a company that is seeing faster growth for its competition. Android dramatically outgrowing iOS. Not to say, as Cory put it, the growth numbers are really wonderful for Apple, but not as strong as the competition. And Apple is executing a very complex, in many cases, vertically integrated business model. There are a lot of risks inherent in that.
So are you saying Tim Cook isn't up to the task?
I'm saying that it's interesting. We've got, in my view, two misses right out of the box with Apple, and it's a company really after, as you said, more than half a decade of never missing, is not really teed up to handle blunders.
What about the product diversity? You know, you've pointed out they don't have a lot of product diversity. How big of a problem is that?
Well, I think that speaks to the miss on the iPhones this quarter. You know, it's true, you could give them a pass in North America where the iPhone has been around for a long time, and we've been all expecting the iPhone 4S, and we have a tendency to gravitate to higher price points, so great. What about in emerging markets where the iPhone hasn't been around as long? Why wasn't that growing as fast? Why didn't that make up for the pause in more established markets?
Alex, I know you're greedy and want more from Apple. What did you think of the gross margins?
So this is an advantageous component environment for them. I would have liked to have seen better, frankly. And one of the things with Apple, it does have pricing leverage as a brand leader, and maybe that didn't translate quite as much on the product front. And again, it comes back to the competition again. And Apple is a bit of a high-cost leader in a brittle economic environment. Maybe that came home to roost a little bit.
Now, I would have expected if they were going to beat anywhere, it would have been in the iPad sales, you know, going to back-to-school season. What do you think's going on there?
So it was a good number, north of 11 million units, right? And the problem here is, again, where are the expectations? You recall, I think, Cory, you and I have talked in the past about once upon a time there were expectations for them to do 100 million units this year. The expectations have tempered considerably. It's a good number, but is it enough to support the world's largest market cap?
Are you expecting any changes in strategy from Tim Cook? I mean, the cash pile is up to $80 billion at this point. Is he going to spend it?
So the answer is yes. I don't know what those changes are going to be. I just know we've got new leadership in place. We've got a guy whose background is in operations, running a company whose hallmark is innovation. And I think there are some things that still need to settle out in terms of who really leads this in the innovation charge going forward.
What about the bench? I mean, there's a whole team of people now leading this company. Do you think someone else other than Tim Cook is going to emerge as the leader here?
Well, and that's the interesting dynamic here as well. It is a strong bench. Is there going to be confrontation there as others when you don't have now that very strong leadership at the front, at the top, the very top, which was Steve Jobs? Now, who does vie for position? Who might they lose if they don't get that position? I don't know the answers to that, but it certainly is worth considering if you're an investor in Apple right now.
What can you tell us about some of the personalities in there? You've got Oppenheimer, you've got the lead designer, Jonathan Ive, Scott Forstall. Tell us how you expect them to kind of relate to each other now that Steve is gone.
Well, I'm somebody on the outside looking in, but they do strike me as very different personalities. And it strikes me as when you have somebody as dynamic and strong as a Steve Jobs, you can keep that cohesive. In the absence of that, I do have my doubts. And again, really trying to execute a very complex global strategy, a lot of vertical integration, very demanding product cycles in a consumer market that oftentimes gets fickle in a hurry.
Still, we know Steve Jobs handpicked Tim Cook to lead the company. We assume he thinks he left it in good hands, but we shall see. Alex Gauna of JMP Securities, thanks for joining us here.